What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our bowl game week one predictions and our first round of the college football playoff predictions as well. As always, I got Ty joining me here this week on this week's episode. But we got to talk about the championship week and the Army Navy game and the other bowl game that actually took place on Saturday. Picks wise, I kind of ran the table for the championship weekend. We picked four different games, and this time, I think for the first time this year, I think it all went in my favor. The only loss was that North Texas loss to Tulane, who obviously made the playoffs. But my biggest takeaway in this one was when are people going to still put respect on this Indiana team? Like they're not even the favorite to win it all still, and they're the number one seed. They beat supposedly everybody's number one team. Their quarterback just won the Heisman. I mean, when are we going to officially say that this Indiana team deserves that spot? And I'm all in on them as well. I think that they can do it along with Texas Tech. Everybody's just saying, oh, Oregon's got the easiest path to the college football playoff. And Texas Tech yet again blows out BYU in the conference championship.
Well, I got to start with putting some respect on my alma mater, Western Michigan, winning the MAC championship for the first time in 9 years. Also, would be doing a disservice if I didn't shout out the Army Navy game. We respect the troops
Mhm.
on this show, and that was actually a great game to watch. It came right down to the wire, but Navy with the comeback win to avoid the upset. And yeah, we're off and running here in bowl season, and I love that we have the playoff mixed in with these kind of bottom tier bowl games to really get things started.
Yeah, and well, not much good coming out of this slide here. We went a combined 2-10 last week for our locks. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, there's not much to say. I mean, I got three small favorites I picked that all lost outright. It was terrible, just bad.
Yeah, so we're gonna flip the script this week. Forget about last week, like they say in sports. I'm going with Western to beat Kennesaw State by 3.5 or more. Memphis to cover 4.5, and then I'm going all playoff games after that. A&M I think covers and beats Miami. Miami, Texas A&M. I love the over in this one. I think Miami hasn't seen a team like Texas A&M defensive and offensive wise, where I think this could be A&M puts up high 40s in this one by themselves, and I think they can at least score 10 points, Miami. So I like the over there. And then I also like Mississippi and Oregon to cover against the bottom feeders that, were gifted a playoff spot.
Yeah, well, I've picked 90 spreads this year and I have not touched a single over under. So why not throw two of them in? I mean, I went 0 and 6, so we're trying to mix some things up here. I got Delaware, Memphis, and Washington State. I think all of them are going to be right in those games and probably win outright, in my opinion. So I'm going with all of them to cover. I got Alabama minus 1.5. Oklahoma obviously won the first matchup in Tuscaloosa, but they had a lot of turnover. I don't know if luck's the right word, but they forced a lot of turnovers. Alabama outgained them by about 200 yards, so I think they flipped the script here. I'm going the under in my Western Michigan Broncos game. They're a team that relies on running the ball and defense. I don't see a lot of points in that game. And then I'm going with the over in the Alabama game. It just feels like there's no reason for them to go over 40 points. That's when they do. So give me the over in that game.
And we'll start off bowl season by, the game that is tonight. By the time you see this video, could have already happened. We're going Troy, Jacksonville State, and I'm going with Jacksonville State here in Alabama. I mean, it's pretty close to where they are in Jacksonville. So I'm going technically a home field game here for Jacksonville State because I'm sure their fans are going to make the trip. But a good season for both these teams as they both made it to their conference championship games. Obviously didn't win, but it still was a good season for both these teams.
Yeah, I'm just going with Troy mainly because I was impressed with them in that Sun Belt championship game. Seemed like they were going to be very overmatched against James Madison going on the road, of course. And they hung right in. I think that game was a lot closer than the score ended up showing. And I think that'll uh, kind of carry over to this game. I think Troy has a lot going for them. In the run game, both of these teams very run heavy, but I think Troy does it a little bit better. So I think they get the win.
They're moving to Wednesday night at 5 o'clock in the Cure Bowl. It's going to be Old Dominion and USF, and USF was the favorite after week two to make the playoff, and here they are finishing 9-3, And it wasn't really even a conversation for the last few weeks of the season because they just kept on losing in the American. But Byron Brown is not playing in this game. I do know that. So that's something to monitor there. But he is still going to be a coach on the sidelines, still supporting his team, which is great to see. But I just think, USF is just built for the long haul. I know Golish is gone, but Old Dominion, give them credit too. 9-3. I don't think anyone talks about Old Dominion being a football school, but this year they were. But I just don't think they got it in them this year, especially because USF Tampa to Orlando was about an hour drive. So I'm sure they'll get a pretty good crowd there.
Yeah, this is where bowl games are such a crapshoot to pick because South Florida is definitely the better team, the more talented team. But like you said, Byron Brown not playing. Alex Golish is coaching, but he is also leaving after this game. So how invested has he been? Just a lot of factors that you don't really have in regular season games. But all that being said, I think the talent is still going to be enough for South Florida. And I think they send out Golish in his final game with a win. And I think this program's still going to be going in the right direction in 2026.
Then after that one, you'll get the Battle of Mid in the 68 Ventures Bowl. It's Louisiana versus Delaware. Delaware is a great story. Only this is their second year, I believe, first year
So,
in FBS ranks, and they're going to a bowl game here. So great to see there. I'm going to pick them in the upset because I think they got more to play for in this one. They're flying all the way across the country to play in this game. It's going to be warm weather. Give me the Blue Hens here with the second best helmets in college football.
yeah, definitely. I think a lot of it is probably the helmets for me here, but I'm going with Delaware. Seems like a lot of these teams recently that make the jump, they've had a lot more success than we used to see a decade or two ago. Every team, it seems like, that makes the jump ends up going 500 or better in their first year. And I think Delaware keeps the momentum going. I think they've had a couple impressive showings this year. I believe played Colorado very close, and they also beat UConn, who ended up having a solid year.
Mhm.
So I think Delaware gets the win, and sky's the limit for them winning a bowl game in year one.
And moving to Thursday, we got another team that's like that in Missouri State. They're only making these bowl games because so many people opted out because, technically you're not supposed to make a bowl game in
Thanks,
your
Notre Dame.
first 2 years. But Missouri State was going to take advantage of it in the Xbox Bowl. They're going to play Arkansas State, and I think they're going to win on the road here. Just keep that good story going and give them some more momentum heading into next year.
Yeah, I'm going with the Red Wolves here. I think their offense is going to be dynamic here. Uh, Going into those Wednesday night Sun Belt games where nothing else was really on, I watched a couple of their games, and they were dynamic with the passing attack, and I think that's going to be the difference here. Not a lot to write home about here in the Xbox Bowl, but I think Arkansas State comes out with the win.
Then Friday at 11 a.m., our Broncos go to Myrtle Beach to play Kennesaw State. Two conference winners here in Conference USA and the MAC. Then I'm going with the MAC champions here. Uh, to me, looked like the more complete game or complete team in every game that they have played in this year. They lost to Wisconsin, they lost to Michigan State, and they lost to what was the other one?
Illinois.
Illinois. Yeah,
Yep.
so their losses were all early in the year. They went on a great run. I think they're 8-1 now in
Yep.
their last 9 games. So this Broncos team is on fire. So give me the Broncos here to go I don't want to say all the way across the country, but to get a good win here to start really the playoff day.
Yeah, I think this will be a good matchup. Like you said, two conference champions. Unfortunate that it's 11 a.m. on a Friday. I don't know how they expect me to get any work done on this day. But that being said, I think the Broncos defense is going to be the difference. They were in full control of that MAC championship. The defense really took over the game. And there's such a run heavy offense that if they can build a lead early, they can really shorten the game from there. So I think it'll be a little bit of that, which is why I took the under. And I think Western just controls the second half and comes out with the win.
After that one, you're going to get Memphis and NC State, two teams I think that we're expecting a little more this year out of their programs. But what Memphis lost last year, I don't say it's a bad year for them. I think it was a pretty solid year for Memphis, going 8-4 after losing pretty much all their team. The Gasparilla Bowl, I think, is going to get decided late, and I think Memphis is going to win that game because I just feel like Memphis throughout the last few years has just been great late down the stretch. So give me the Tigers here.
Yeah, another really solid American team with a coach leaving, Ryan Silverfield going to Arkansas. And I wonder if that's playing into this spread because I feel like Memphis has been the better team throughout the season. So I think, even with a leaving coach, maybe some guys entering the portal, maybe following him, maybe going elsewhere, I still think Memphis is going to get it done here. NC State's been very up and down this year. They have the Virginia win to hang their hat on, but outside of that, not a lot to write home about. So I think the Tigers win it.
And then our first playoff game of the year, it's going to be Alabama goes on the road to face Oklahoma. Like you mentioned earlier, these two teams played each other, but it was flipped. Oklahoma went to Bama. And obviously, Oklahoma got that win. And I think Oklahoma wins this one yet again. It's going to have to come down to John Mateer versus Ty Simpson. And hopefully, this means Mateer hasn't played a game in 3 weeks, so that thumb injury should be a thing of the past. And if that is the case, I expect him to open up the playbook and let him eat. I hope that's going to be the case here in this one. And give Oklahoma credit for going 10-2 with the schedule they had in the preseason. I mean, I think I predicted him to go 6-6 because I thought there's no way that this team's going to roll this much. And, I'm glad they made me eat my words in this one. So good for them to get to this spot. And I think they have a date in a few weeks with Indiana.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game. Not only have they already played and played a very close game, both of these teams are struggling mightily on offense as of late. Alabama, of course, just was eaten alive by that Georgia defense. Oklahoma has been winning. I think they won their last 4 games in the regular season, but they were all due to their defense. Nothing really to write home about on the offensive side of the ball. Neither team can run the ball at all. So I think it's going to be uh, really coming down to who turns the ball over. Obviously, in the first matchup, that was Alabama, but I think in this one, that's going to flip. I think Alabama forces a few turnovers. So this way, if they are able to outgain them again, like they did the first time, the turnovers won't flip the game towards Oklahoma. So I think Alabama avenges the loss in the first matchup, and I think they go on the road and get the win.
And then moving to Saturday, it's going to be Miami, Texas A&M. And I'm going with the Aggies at home. I just think the 12th man is just going to be too much for Miami. Like I mentioned earlier, Miami hasn't seen an opponent like Texas A&M all year. I mean, I guess you could say Notre Dame. That was what, week 3? This is playoff football. Everyone's going to be more amped for this one. Unfortunately, we didn't get this game at night, which is a big disappointment because that would have been absolute cinema. If this game was at night, it would be even crazier of a crowd. But regardless, I think A&M's offense is going to roll in this one. Marcel Reed is going to prove why he should have been a finalist for the Heisman. I think he got a little bit robbed in those votes there. So I think he's going to come out with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and really light up this Hurricane defense.
Yeah, I think both of these quarterbacks have their struggles throughout the season at times, but I think Carson Beck is just a little bit more prone to some big turnovers. We saw that in the Louisville game when he threw 4 picks. So I think Texas A&M is going to be able to force him into a couple bad throws. And like you said, the 12th man at Kyle Field, it's definitely going to make a difference. I don't know how many points exactly that's worth, but it's definitely something that's going to play into this game even with it being a noon game. Texas A&M coming off a loss, but I think you could even argue that maybe that was good for them. They just skated by South Carolina right before that, so I think maybe that loss could be a good mental reset for this team. So I think the home field advantage, along with the more consistent quarterback, I think that's all the difference Texas A&M is going to need here.
Yeah, it's actually a battle of the Notre Dame beaters in that one as
Yeah.
well. Um, this one, I don't really have too much to say. We've already seen this happen once this year. Blowout, and I think that's going to be yet again another blowout. But Ole Miss, I think, is going to be a little shaky coming out of the gates. Obviously, Kiffin's gone. The whole staff has been shaken up a little bit. Players are going to, prove that, yeah, we still are really good, and our coach is going to miss out on a championship here. So I expect them to not take their foot off the gas one bit in this game. So give me Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you could maybe say is Tulane benefits from Lane Kiffin leaving, maybe the locker room being a little bit checked out for Ole Miss. But Tulane's coach is also leaving. I know he's coaching in the game, but they're in the same situation, really. So I think there's not a lot to really hang your hat on here for a Tulane upset. Like you said, they already played. Ole Miss beat them by 35. Lane Kiffin is worth a few points. He's not worth 35 points. So I think Ole Miss dominates this game at home. I don't see how they don't cover. I think it's, 38-17, somewhere in that range. And the Rebels set up a big matchup with Georgia in a rematch.
And then at 7:30 on TNT, I'm not much to report here. Oregon blows the doors off James Madison. Dante Moore doesn't even get a snap in the fourth quarter. And Dan Lanning is going to play Texas Tech in Arlington.
Yeah, I think I see a little bit more of a path actually for James Madison than Tulane if I had to pick one. I agree that it's probably an Oregon blowout here. But Oregon's had a couple clunkers on offense this season. JMU can put up some points, albeit against much lesser competition. So, maybe if JMU forces an early turnover, breaks a couple big plays, but outside of that, I think it's an Oregon route. And that Oregon Texas Tech game in the next round is going to be awesome.
And then we'll move to the last game we got for you this week. It's going to be the Idaho Potato Bowl. What a great way to finish the week. All these teams are, this game's what, in Boise, I believe? I think
Yeah.
it's the Boise one. Yeah. So they're playing on the blue field, 6-6, two teams that obviously wanted some better finishes to the season. But, you can possibly take this bowl win as some momentum going into next year. And I think it would prove more for Washington State to get the win. Obviously, losing their coach to Iowa State, where Utah State is kind of looking to rebound and get that momentum heading into next year. And for that reason, I'm going with Utah State here. I just think this team has been sluggish these last few years, and I think they need something to kickstart them in the right direction here. Because ever since Jordan Love left, this team's kind of just been, middle of the pack, not really contending.
Yeah, I mean, it could be said about both of these teams, but I think it's something to be said about Washington State. They've had so much going against them. Not only their conference getting blown up, but before that, Mike Leach leaving them for Mississippi State. That was a big loss. So this team's been dealt a lot of bad hands, and they just continue to make bowl games, put together solid seasons. So I think it's a team that's been tested quite a bit this year. I remember they played North Texas and Washington already, two really solid teams. So I think even with their coach leaving, I think they still are able to end their season on a good note. And the Pac-12 or whatever it's going to be, the Pac-6, Pac-7, they're
Eight.
back next year. So Pac-8. So maybe that'll kickstart Washington State into some more success.
And that's all we got for you this week on the week one predictions. Check back next week, obviously, to see how we did picking these games. And we'll be back picking more bowl games and obviously the playoff as well. But until next time, the Bench Buddies are out.